Good evening. I am Lucius Voss, your silver lining savoring, faintly feral purveyor of peril. And tonight we slip behind the polished facade of boutique eyewear and right into the unmentionable undercurrents of lust, lycanthropy, and lightly cursed luxury goods. Yes, my dear fearing souls, it's time for Spectral Margins. Tonight's tale prowls the glossy streets of NoHo, where the eyewear costs more than your rent, and the clients cry harder at SoulCycle than they do at their own tax returns. But behind the cultivated charm and curated Instagram flatlays lies a hunger, one not satisfied by kombucha or Wagyu tartar. Written by the ever-incisive M.M. Saint and brought to breathless life by that velvet-voiced Geoff Sturtevant, this is a story of appetite, of strange transmissions, and even stranger encounters in places you'd be wise to avoid after dark. So, tighten your tie clips and keep an eye on the moon, darlings. Tonight's feature presentation is called Werewolf. Don't worry, you'll get the joke soon enough.
1. The Bite That Wasn't. Marcus Olander adjusted the temples on a pair of $2,100 buffalo horn glasses, perched on the face of a man whose personality could only be described as PowerPoint in human form. The client puckered his lips in the mirror, flexed his jaw like he was prepping for a tech conference headshot. Shirt too tight, sleeves too short, voice like underset jello. These frames say I run the room, right? They say you try too hard and cry at SoulCycle. They're assertive, very alpha. That was his gift, his magic trick, masking contempt with cloying charm, smiling sweetly while holding the bite. He worked at one of those fiercely independent eyewear shops in NoHo. Not a boutique, never that. The kind of store where the floors were dark mahogany, the walls exposed brick, and the music? A weirdly perfect playlist of French vocalists, K-pop, 90s college radio, and classic hip-hop. It attracted the kind of clientele who thought vintage acetate meant cool. But Marcus didn't mind. He liked good design. What he hated, passionately, were the crypto bros who came in and said things like, "Pick me a pair that'll get me laid." Bruh. By 1 p.m., he'd retreated to the back room, sipping a pear recorder link, noshing on salmon sashimi, and editing his latest EDC flatlay for Instagram. It was a vibe. A Rolex Explorer 1, a burgundy shell cordovan wallet, a brass key clip shaped like a horse's head, a folding knife, an aluminum Sean design pen, a rough-out leather glasses case, all laid out on an Iron Heart 19-ounce lefty selvage denim jacket. Caption: Tools of the trade for seeing clearly, writing crisply, and looking good while ghosting emails. Hashtag EDC, hashtag selvage, hashtag flatlay Friday. At 1:25, he was back out front, adjusting crooked Lindbergh frames for a guy who called his exes investments. He fantasized about faking a seizure just to go home. Interlude. Terminal hunger. He heard Marcus before he saw him. Footsteps. Crisp, hesitant, curious. Stephen sat in the stall, pants around his ankles. One hand braced against the wall, the other adjusting his collar. The mirror was cracked. The lighting was harsh. None of it mattered. He could already smell Marcus's tension. Coffee, cotton, leather, loneliness. He opened the stall door, just a crack. Revealed a cuff, a sliver of stubble. "The moon's high tonight," Stephen said. "Romantic," Marcus said. Stephen smiled. "Got you." By the time he'd intended to catch the 6:11 Metro North train out of Grand Central, the city had its full evening vibe going on. Rain-slicked pavement, orange-colored mercury lights, smells of roasted nuts, halal foods, and subway piss, accompanied by the city's soundtrack of shouting people, sirens, and horns honking. As he entered Grand Central Terminal, he became aware of his weathered leather tote digging into his shoulder. His boots, John Lofgren donkey punchers, expertly crafted in Japan from Horween leather, echoed with crisp authority down a seldom-used, tiled corridor. He wasn't headed for his train. He didn't intend to wander off into restrooms located in the old corridor at the far west of the terminal, the one that hadn't been renovated in decades, where the fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered, and half the stalls didn't lock. It was quiet, dim and forgotten. He noticed that one of the stalls was occupied, and its door was slightly open. A bathroom, on paper. A confessional booth, in a sense. He stepped inside, heard a breath catch. There was someone in the last stall. A presence. A broad-shouldered silhouette visible through the cracked door, backlit by city streets, leaking through a high, dirty window. The man didn't speak at first, though Marcus caught a glimpse of a razor-sharp jawline cloaked in 2-day stubble, and one intense blue eye peering at him from under a furrowed brow. He caught a glimpse of a moderately hairy wrist beneath a crisp white shirt, tailored to moneyed perfection. There was just enough visible in that opening to let the space between them fill with awareness. Marcus just stood there, his pulse and need climbing, heavy and hot. Then the man spoke, voice oozing with the heat of a campfire that would burn if you ventured too close. "The moon's high tonight." Marcus, his tongue sharp, even as he was already dropping to his knees in submission. Romantic. He knelt before the stranger. The stranger didn't step back. Marcus really never saw his face, only bits of it. But he remembered everything else. The scent, pine needles, sandalwood, something darkly alluring and deeply carnal, like musk, forest, petrichor, and sex. Marcus could feel the dominance radiating from the weight of the man's hand against the back of his head, gentle but firm, guiding his head while his mouth and throat were used with the efficiency of a fleshlight. The scrape of the stranger's unshaven face along his cheek and shoulder when his neck was kissed and nibbled on was almost too much. The way he growled something low and dark right before he... Marcus didn't stop, didn't think. He just swallowed, taking in the man's heat, lust, and something that didn't taste quite right. And he wasn't able to breathe for a moment after. He caught a much later train back to Connecticut with his lips tingling and his stomach seeming to twist in ways that had nothing to do with regret. He was about halfway through the train ride before deciding to text himself a reminder, Look up, moon cycles plus horniness. Also, what does it mean when the dick smells that amazing? 2. New growth. The changes started small. Marcus first noticed it in the shower. The water pressure felt off, sharper. Every drop stung like pinpricks, even on the mildest showerhead setting. He chalked it up to hard water. Maybe he needed a water softener, or a new soap. It was pretty much negligible, until the next morning when he shaved. He dragged his razor across his jaw and watched the hair grow back, faster than what should be possible, behind the blade. Fast enough that by the time he finished one cheek, the other had grown in again. Thick, coarse, and dark. He tried to laugh it off, told himself he was imagining it, that his razor needed sharpening. He ate an everything bagel with lox, onion, and cream cheese, his favorite, and began his day. After feeding the cats, he tried ignoring Sasha's judgmental stare and the fact that Luna darted out of the room like he'd raised his voice, which he hadn't. Not yet. Sunny was just sitting there, hackles raised, glaring in her sunny way. By lunchtime, he was pacing the sidewalk outside his favorite ramen spot, nearly vibrating with restless energy, and all his senses going haywire. The city was too loud, too colorful. Every smell was like a slap in the face. Perfume, car exhaust, peanuts roasting on the corner, the tang of metal on an open subway grate. Cursing at nothing in particular, he turned on his heel, ditched the ramen, and stalked into Smith & Walensky, a nearby steakhouse instead. "How would you like that cooked?" Just wave it past a candle," he said, meaning to joke, then quickly added, black and blue." When the plate arrived, the S&W signature cut prime rib was hot and seared on the outside, cool and raw in the middle, looking almost blue. He devoured it like a starving man. His utensils kept the scene somewhat civilized. Marcus began to notice his mood shifting too. The patience he was known for started cracking. Later that day, he almost lost it at a customer for tapping the display case. He didn't yell, didn't even raise his voice, but the snarl that rose in his throat was real, deep, animalistic. The customer blinked, stunned. "Jesus," he muttered. "You people act like you're gods just because you can read a prescription." Marcus clenched his fists behind the counter, apologized quickly, and bit his tongue. He tasted blood. That night, in the safety of his apartment, he stripped out of his denim and flannel, collapsed onto the couch, and let all 3 cats sniff at him before retreating to the opposite corners of the room. Sunny hissed. Sasha simply stared. Only Luna lingered long enough to paw his chest, then yowled and ran, tail puffed like a feather duster. "Okay," he said aloud, voice cracking. "I think we're past the point of this just being a quirky mood swing." He opened his laptop and Googled things he didn't really believe in. Am I a werewolf? Lycanthropy, real-life symptoms. Werewolf curse transmission without bite. Sexually transmitted monsterism. He found nothing useful. Just some creepypastas, werewolf fanfics and conspiracy forums, and a plethora of things falling under Rule 34. There was one subreddit that caught his eye titled, "Caught something weird from a glory hole. Do I need a rabies shot?" The thread was locked, but one comment stood out. If you're reading this and your body doesn't feel normal or like yours anymore, DM me. Username, Rook NYC. Marcus stared at the screen. Then he cracked his knuckles, took a deep swig of tea, and started typing. 3. Muzzled meet cute. The message was simple. Rook NYC. If the cats are scared of you and the thought of raw meat is more appealing than sex, we should talk. Marcus stared at it for a long time. He'd barely posted a comment in the locked Reddit thread before the DM had appeared. On his Instagram inbox of all places. His account wasn't even under his real name, but it seemed like the Flatlays gave him away. The brass horse clip, the Rolex. The cats peeking in from the frame edges like reluctant photobombers. Someone paying attention would figure it out. He clicked on the profile. At Rook NYC. No selfies, no followers. Just a single photo. An old police badge, slightly scratched. The bio read, Special cases. If you know, you know. He typed out a dozen things and deleted them all before finally sending. Where and when? The cafe Rook picked was tucked into the edge of the West Village, half hidden behind a florist and a bookstore that smelled like bergamot, roses, and dust. Marcus had almost walked past it. Twice. The inside was dim but cozy, full of mismatched furniture and young people full of themselves, pretending not to eavesdrop. And at a table toward the back, a big man sat alone with a coffee cup cradled in his massive hand. Marcus recognized him immediately. Not because they'd met, but because Rook had the kind of presence that stood out, even in a crowded room. He was tall, easily over 6'5". Dark ginger hair cropped close on the sides, but tousled just enough on top to say, I woke up like this, and meant it. A closely trimmed beard framed his square jaw, and his skin was slightly freckled across the bridge of a strong nose. His eyes, sharp, green, and alert, moved like he was trained to suss out threats before they happened. He wore a blue chambray shirt that pulled nicely across broad shoulders, the sleeves rolled up to reveal hairy, muscled forearms. They weren't gym showy, but solid, like he could lift a grown man without even making an effort. Marcus swallowed, straightened his denim jacket, and walked over. You're Rook? You're late. I had a minor grooming incident. I was shaving and the hair grew back while I was still shaving. Rook didn't blink. Sit down. Marcus did, slowly. So what are you? A cryptid therapist? Werewolf support guy? The guy who comes running when teenagers summon Bloody Mary? Detective. Special cases. With the NYPD? Sort of. Marcus leaned back, let himself take in the view. All of Rook, knowing that it was going to be a mistake. You're not going to flash a badge and take me in, are you? I didn't ask for any of this. It's not like I swiped right on becoming a werewolf. No, you swiped left on common sense and sucked off a total stranger under shitty lighting in a public restroom. Marcus opened his mouth to reply, closed it, then burst out laughing. Okay, that's fair. Rook finally smiled, just a little. His teeth were perfect and even, the canines sharp, and they were white, a little too white. Marcus wasn't sure if that was comforting or not. They talked for nearly 2 hours. Marcus asked many questions. Rook answered only the ones he wanted to. He explained what was happening. Slow onset lycanthropy. Sexually transmitted. Rare, but real. It's not about full moons or silver bullets. It's about appetite and control. So you're saying I'm infected? You're changed. Permanently. Marcus went quiet, looked down at his hands. The new dusting of hair across his knuckles glinted in the low light, like it was mocking him. I didn't even see his face. Most don't. Why me? Why pick me? Probably because you're built to survive it. Or he thinks you are. Outside, the sky had darkened, and it had started to rain steadily. The sidewalk shimmered with the oily reflections of streetlights and neon signs. Rook walked Marcus to the edge of the block and stopped. Get a lot of meat for your fridge, and some blocks for your windows if you don't have any. First full moon's coming. You'll feel it before you see it. And if I lose control, you will. And then what? Rook turned. His voice was low but steady. Green eyes intense. Then I'll find you. And with that, he disappeared into the night. Tall, broad-shouldered, and gone. As Marcus stood there, wet and confused, he thought about Rook, his cats, and survival. And then he thought about why the stranger had smelled like pine needles, musk, and sin. 4. Fur, forms, and flashbacks. That night, Marcus dreamt of running. Not jogging, not cardio, not some sad little couch to 5K fantasy. Running. Fast and hard. Bare feet on soft dirt. Heart in his throat. Moonlight tangled in his hair. He dreamt of howling, of a sound tearing out of his chest that wasn't quite human. He woke up sweating. The sheets twisted around his ankles, and the cat's gone from the bed, having escaped the throes of his nightmares. Sunny was watching him from the windowsill, trying to make herself appear larger and scarier, like he was a stranger. Sasha was curled in a bookshelf, tail flicking with slow disdain. Luna cried, and had pissed on the Persian area rug. Again. This is why I can't have nice things, he muttered, dragging himself to the kitchen for some water. Or roommates, or a normal life. He called out sick for work, faked a sore throat, which wasn't altogether untrue. His voice had dropped an octave overnight, and there was a rasp in it he didn't remember having. He spent most of the morning in a pair of gray-colored flannel pajama pants and his favorite blue Ironheart hoodie, scrolling through paranormal Reddit threads with a mug of coffee, light and sweet, and a heating pad across his stomach. His muscles ached, like he'd done some heavy deadlifts in his sleep. Or hunted something. At 11:43 a.m., Rook messaged again. Rook NYC. How's the fridge? Any midnight stacking? Marcus Olander. Steak tartare. No witnesses. Rook NYC. That's good. Or bad. They met again that night, this time in Rook's apartment. It was in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, located just off Wythe and Broadway. Top floor, clearly chosen for privacy. Sparse, minimally decorated and furnished, but not unlived in. Canvas duffels by the door. A gun safe under the bookshelf. The air thick with pine, leather, and dark roast coffee. Brooke handed Marcus a glass of water and a protein bar. You're burning more calories now. You'll feel it in waves. First hunger, then heat, then anger. Oh, good. A snack pack of symptoms. You'll get stronger. You'll heal faster. Sleep less. Your senses will heighten. And so will your instincts. And eventually I'll start peeing on hydrants. Rook's mouth twisted into a smirk. Only if you're into that. They sat across from each other. Rook on a heavy leather armchair. Marcus cross-legged on the couch, absently stroking at a little wound behind his knee that hadn't been there the night before. When he checked on it later, the scab was already gone. So this isn't bite-based, that's what you said? That's what all the forums say too. Bite transmission is crude, messy, not reliable. It's how you make monsters. And what am I? Something older, stronger, more stable. Rook stood up and walked to the bookshelf, pulled down a worn leather folio. Inside were clippings, old newspaper articles, handwritten notes, and Polaroids that smelled like mildew and iron. He laid one photo down in front of Marcus. Black and white, blurry. A man, muscular and bare-chested, eyes glowing faintly, kneeling beside another man, lips close to his erect cock. The caption read, Venice, 1903. Ritual ingestion. Possible origin of midnight hunger. It's always been about appetite and lust. The sex just makes it easier to ignore the signs. You're telling me that blowjobs are a cursed vector now? If it helps, you're not alone. That caught Marcus off guard. You mean there were others? Brooke hesitated, then nodded. There were. And now? One disappeared last month. Another, guy named Adrian, didn't survive the second full moon. Body half-shifted. He was found in an abandoned car wash in Queens. Marcus swallowed. All of a sudden, the room felt colder. So what happens to me? Rook looked at him, serious now. That depends on how fast you learn, how strong your will is. Marcus stared down at the photo again. And on who turned me? Exactly. Later that night, Marcus lay in bed with the windows cracked open. The city breathed around him. Distant sirens, a horn blaring 3 blocks away, a man laughing too loudly on the street below. And somewhere behind it all, the low sound of a wolf's howl. Far off, but coming closer. 5. Dinner and a full moon. The moon rose big and bright, and it wasn't even full yet. That was the part that pissed Marcus off the most. It was close, round and bright and smug behind a veil of city haze, but not the real deal. Not the climax, just a prologue. Still, it pulled at him. He could feel it in his teeth, like pressure before a thunderstorm. In his bones, the way they were humming at the wrong frequency. In his stomach, where no amount of meat was enough anymore. He stood in front of his fridge at 1:13 a.m., wearing boxer briefs and a fading chambray work shirt, just staring. A half-eaten steak bled onto a plate beside a Tupperware of raw lamb. His mouth watered. He ate the lamb cold, with his hands, growled when he dropped a piece. When he caught sight of himself in the reflection of the oven door, he noticed that his eyes were glowing faintly gold. The call came the next morning. "You home?" "Depends who's asking." "I am." "Then yeah. Why?" "What's your address?" Marcus blinked. "You planning on sending me flowers?" "No, I'm coming over. You shouldn't be alone tonight." Marcus hesitated, looked at the bent fork on the counter, the raw meat tray in the sink, the scratches on the bathroom tile. "Yeah. Okay." Rook showed up 2 hours later with a duffel bag and an expression that said, "I'm not here to argue, but I will if I have to. You've got 3 nights, starting tonight. It's a slow burn the first time, but once the shift starts, you can't stop it." "You say that like it's puberty. Do I need pads, Gatorade?" Rook tossed a pair of heavy, industrial-looking steel cuffs onto the table. Thick metal links and a steel-reinforced strap meant for actual containment. "You need to chain yourself somewhere secure, preferably near meat, and not people." Marcus lifted the cuffs. They were cold, heavy, and, if he was being honest, kind of hot in a terrifying way. "These from your day job?" "No, they're mine." They decided on an old radiator in the living room, heavy cast iron, bolted to the floor since 1932. Rook helped him lock the cuffs in place, one wrist, one ankle, while the cats circled the room like suspicious little roommates who weren't sure what was happening to their daddy, and if they were still getting dinner. Marcus tested the restraints. Couldn't move more than a few feet. He sat down cross-legged, surrounded by throw pillows and a tray of raw sirloin. "Cozy," he said, batting his eyelashes. "Is this the part where I turn into a man-wolf and tell you I've always loved you?" "No. This is the part where you shit yourself, scream, and maybe bite a hole in your tongue. You really know how to set a mood." "I'm staying just outside. If something goes wrong, I'm coming in." "You mean if I go wrong?" Rook didn't answer, just looked at him with those steady green eyes and said, "Breathe. Fight the urges. Remember who you are." Then he left. For the first hour, nothing happened. Marcus watched a horror movie on mute, ate the sirloin, dozed a little. Then the aching started. It wasn't sharp or too painful, not at first. Just heat, low in his back, behind his ribs. Suddenly, it felt like he had a fever made of lava coursing through his entire body. His skin crawled, his vision blurred. He itched in places he hadn't known could itch, and the itching became a burning. Then came the cracking sounds. His spine popped like bubble wrap. His fingers curled, stretched, cracked, reset. Hair sprouted in patches, spreading down his chest, his thighs, up the back of his neck, while his muscles grew exponentially. He screamed. The cuffs held. For now. When Rook finally broke the door open at 4:37 a.m., Marcus was unconscious on the floor, half-shifted, naked, mouth bloody and breathing in shallow gasps. The radiator was bent and twisted. The sirloin was gone. The cats were hiding. With great care, Rook gently lifted Marcus into his arms like he weighed nothing, cradled him against his chest, and whispered something low and warm and comforting in a language Marcus didn't know. He carried Marcus to the couch and waited for morning. 6. The Gathering. Marcus woke up with his face pressed against something warm. Solid warmth, a slow, steady rise and fall under his cheek. The scent of pine, coffee, and something faintly animal. Rook. They were still on the couch. Marcus sprawled across him, one arm slung loosely around Rook's waist, their legs tangled like they'd done this 100 times. Rook was wide awake, one hand idly stroking Marcus's hair. "You snore." "Do not." "Growled in your sleep, too." "Sexy." "Violent." "Still sexy." Rook stifled a laugh. Marcus opened his eyes. The world looked softer in the early morning light. The pain was mostly gone. His body ached in the way it did after a workout, but at least it felt like it belonged to him again. The radiator was bent badly, but the cuffs had held. Barely. "I didn't kill anyone, right?" "Just the sirloin." "Then it's a win." Rook looked at him for a long moment, not evaluating, just seeing him. "You're stronger than you think." Marcus leaned in, brushed his nose along Rook's collarbone, inhaling his scent, mumbled, "Don't make me fall for you. It's too early in the arc." A text came that evening. A burner number. No name, just coordinates, a time, and the emojis of a wine glass and a wolf. Rook looked at it. His eyes flashed, and his jaw tightened. "Steven." "You're sure?" "He always makes it look like an invitation." Marcus squinted at the address. "Midtown? Bold for a blood cult." "He wants attention." "He's about to get some." They planned quickly. Marcus would go in alone, dressed like bait. Rook would be outside, listening through a wire, with a backup a block away. Marcus argued for a knife or anything he could use as a weapon. Rook gave him a tiny silver one disguised as a tie clip. "If you shift in there..." "I won't." "If he tries to turn you..." "He already did." Rook cupped Marcus's face gently in his hands. He gazed at him like he was memorizing every freckle, every curve of lip, cheek, and collarbone. "Don't drink anything. Don't eat anything. Don't let him touch your skin." "Yes, Dad." "Say that again and I'm handcuffing you to my radiator." Marcus smirked. Kinky. The townhouse inside Midtown looked more like a private museum than the home of a monster. Inside, the walls were lined with abstract oil paintings that looked like people in scenes of pain and grief. The lighting was low, mostly candlelit. Everything looked like old money and reeked of wine, blood, and danger. Marcus walked in slow and controlled, oozing the kind of sexy boredom that only the truly powerful do, and the truly afraid can fake well. Stephen Gray, the stranger had a name now, met him at the base of a grand staircase. He was barefoot, wearing a black shirt unbuttoned to his sternum, sleeves rolled, and pants that probably cost more than Marcus's rent. That damn perfect 2-day stubble, sun-kissed skin, and a smirk that smacked of arrogance. Marcus Olander. Even better in person. I'm flattered. You're just as selfish looking from what I can recall. Stephen grinned. Let's not spoil the mood. Come, drink with me. The goblet was handed to Marcus. He didn't want to even touch it. The scent from it was heady. Blood, herbs, something metallic and wrong. To the hunger, he said, then lifting the goblet. To the chosen. Around him, other men and women lifted glasses. Beautiful, half-shifted, glowing-eyed things, in silk and velvet, and nothing at all. Marcus raised the goblet, held it, stalled. Marcus, this is what you were made for. Marcus's hand trembled. Say that again and I might believe you. Behind him, the door exploded inward. Drop it! Gun raised, eyes glowing. Everything went to hell. Silk and velvet-clad bodies lunged from sofas. Guests half-shifted, fangs flashing, claws shredding silk. Someone screamed. Someone else howled. Rook stood in the doorway, eyes wild, weapon raised. Federal agent! Everyone on the ground! No one listened. Marcus spun, dropped low. He avoided a claw that missed his throat by an inch. Slashed upward with the silver tie clip. Caught someone in the ribs. Hard. Blood hit the wall. He locked eyes with Rook across the chaos. Get to me! Working on it! Stephen appeared beside him like a shadow. Calm, unruffled. You could have had all this, he said, teeth bared. Power! Family! I've got cats. And a guy who actually calls me back. Stephen lunged. Fast. Too fast. But Marcus had shifted before. He knew the signs. He dropped backward, slid across the floor, and kicked Stephen in the chest hard enough to crack something. Rook was there in a second. He hit Stephen with the butt of his gun. Turning, he grabbed Marcus by the wrist. Time to run. They ran. They hightailed it out the shattered front door, down an alley, and into the night. Leaving the chaos behind them, running toward the flashing lights and sirens ahead. Stephen. He stood in the ruins of the parlor. Blood was dripping from his lip. One arm cradled against his side. A broken goblet beside his foot. He gazed down at it, then up at the sound of sirens and footsteps. He smiled. Good. Now the game begins. 8. Death by download. Rook. The apartment was small, barely furnished. A futon, a laptop, a milk crate doubling as a nightstand. The smell hit Rook before he crossed the threshold. Sweat, metal, blood, and the sour stink of a corpse. He stepped inside slowly, pulling on latex gloves, careful not to smudge or disturb anything. The victim, mid-20s, athletic, blonde and handsome, lay in a fetal position beside the couch. Shirt torn, fingernails cracked. jaw elongated and misshapen. It had tried to become something larger, more dangerous, and died halfway through. No bite marks, no claw wounds. Just a silver coin, still moist, resting under his tongue. Same as Adrian. Shit, Steven's marking them. The techs and crime scene team moved around him, quiet, methodical. One of them handed him the victim's phone. Last thing he streamed. It was queued up on his playlist. Rook unlocked the screen. The Beacon Hill Horror Podcast glowed back at him. Latest episode title: How to Become a Monster. Steven's voice began to fill the space. Smooth, husky, and intimate. Almost hypnotic. Like he was whispering ASMR right into your skull. They tell you the bite is sacred. They lie. It's the taking that matters. The tasting. The surrender. Rook turned it off. He's recruiting through the episodes, triggering something. Subliminal content? Worse. Psychological grooming. Marcus stood alone in Rook's apartment, wearing one of the cop's shirts that was too large on him and eating peanut butter out of the jar with a knife. He was still shaky. Not from fear, though. From restraint. His muscles twitched under his skin like they wanted something to happen. Something violent. The door opened, and Rook returned, looking grim. Another one? Yeah. Same MO? Half shifted, silver coin. Steven's podcast in his earbuds. Marcus ran a hand through his hair, which had grown noticeably thicker again overnight. He looked down at the scar across his wrist, barely visible now. His healing was faster, his hunger sharper. He met Rook's eyes. You think Steven's doing it on purpose? I think he's testing the bloodline, seeing who can take it and who can't. Marcus set the knife down carefully. Then let's give him what he wants. Rook raised an eyebrow. You want to bait him again? No. I want to beat him at his own game. They set up the plan that night. Marcus would post a flat lay. Simple, moody, unmistakably him. He'd use a specific caption with keywords pulled straight from Steven's most recent episode. Under the skin, something stirs. Not hunger, not fear. Just change. Within an hour, the account WolfPatron213 messaged him. You're waking up, Marcus. I'm proud of you. Marcus showed Rook the screen. He's watching. Rook leaned in, one hand resting on the small of Marcus's back. Then let's make sure he sees everything he's about to lose. Steven. He read the caption 6 times, paused, then smiled. Marcus wasn't broken. Not yet. That made him valuable. Not as prey, not even as kin, as a rival. And rivals had to be claimed. Or destroyed. 9. Kiss and conspire. The rain had started up again. Big, heavy drops, steady, and tapping against the windows like it wanted in. Marcus stood barefoot in Rook's kitchen, staring into the fridge. Shirtless, damp-haired, and gnawing a slice of prosciutto like it had offended him. You okay? Define okay. Not actually shifting. Not licking the ceiling. Not Googling how to fake your death and still keep your cats. Marcus shut the fridge, turned around, and held Rook's gaze. Then, yeah, I'm okay. He was lying. He felt angry, feral, like his skin didn't quite fit right, like his heart was too loud. Everything smelled too sharp. But Rook's presence helped. It grounded him, anchored the chaos. And then there was something else. Something pulling at the seams. Marcus and Rook sat on the couch. An odd combination of ugly and comfortable, with not much space but a palpable amount of tension between them. The apartment was quiet, except for the rain tapping against the windows and the faint buzz of Rook's laptop fan. The walls were lined with books, more than half of them criminal science, the rest a collection of folklore from around the world. A file folder sat open on a well-worn coffee table, crime scene photos of dead men and redacted case notes spread all over. We've got enough to move. IP traces from his burner accounts, flagged podcast metadata, ritualistic evidence from the last scene. So what's the plan? He hosts again. You go inside. What makes you think he'll invite me? He already did once. Marcus swallowed. He felt very cold all of a sudden. And this time when he tries to claim me? You hold him. Brooke slid a USB drive across the table. That's everything the NYPD and my division has on him. You read it, memorize it, and you bury him in it. Marcus picked it up. It felt heavy. What if I can't? Then I'll burn the whole goddamn block to find you. Marcus looked up, right into Rook's piercing green eyes. He wasn't kidding. Rook's face was steadfast, stern, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes, something soft and caring, although trying not to be. Marcus set the USB down. Why do you care so much? Silence. Then quietly. Because the first time I saw you, I thought, finally, someone like me. Someone I'd give everything to save. Marcus moved on before he could think better of it, closing the space between them, pressing his mouth to Rook's. The kiss wasn't gentle, even at first. It was fierce, hungry. The clash of breath, lips, tongue, and teeth. Driven by needs and desires buried for too long, restrained too tightly. Rook pulled him close like he was trying to get his own body to memorize Marcus's shape. Marcus kissed back like he was afraid stopping would mean this was all a dream and he'd wake up alone again. Hands found hips, bodies pressed together. Fingertips brushed jawlines, ran through thick heads of hair, explored. The heat building between them like a star about to go supernova. When they finally broke apart, Marcus was panting. If I die, you have to adopt my cats. All 3. Rook rested his forehead against Marcus's. You're not gonna die. You sound sure. I am. Another beat. Then Rook added gruffly. But I'll take the cats. Obviously. Stephen. He lit a single match in the dark. Let it burn down to his fingertips before blowing it out. Let's see what you do when I stop playing. 10. Where the wolf ends. The warehouse smelled like old blood, wet cardboard, and cash. It sat hunched on the edge of the Brooklyn waterfront, half forgotten and humming with HVAC activity. Inside, candlelight flickered along the rusted support beams and velvet-draped scaffolds. Werewolves, half-clothed, half-shifted in that infamous hybrid, humanoid with a wolf head form, circled the perimeter with all the twitchy reverence of zealots waiting for a miracle. And at the center, standing atop the cracked marble dais, was Stephen Gray. He was barefoot, shirt unbuttoned to the navel, dark linen pants hanging low on his lean hips. His body was long, lean, and sculpted. Not gym hard, but survival sleek. The kind of muscle that came from fighting ocean currents and choking men out in humid jiu-jitsu studios. A fine trail of copper dark hair traced down from his sternum and disappeared beneath the waistband. Thick, dark brown stubble framed a jawline so perfect it looked almost artificial. His eyes, blue and wide, danced with the amber light of madness. He was beautiful in the way of jazz singers, cult leaders, and apex predators. He turned toward the approaching footsteps, smiling. Marcus. Marcus walked in alone, boots click-clacking with an air of authority, breathing calm and steady, shoulders back, chest out, his dark hair slicked back like armor. He wore black selvage denim jeans, a white fitted thermal, and Rook's, his boyfriend's, old flannel rolled at the cuffs. One silver tie clip worn as a brooch through a buttonhole. He approached, showing no fear, only determination. He passed under the flicker of the candles and stopped 2 feet from Stephen, close enough to smell the pine, musk, sweat, and harmful intent on his skin. Is this your idea of ambience? A repurposed warehouse? Stephen tilted his head, eyes traveling slowly down Marcus's body like a slow lick. You look magnificent. You just eye-banged me, and you look crazy. Insanity is just evolution skipping ahead. What? Stephen reached out, grazing Marcus's cheek with the back of his hand. Marcus didn't flinch. You wanted me here? Well, here I am. Stephen's voice dropped, low, intimate, and dangerous. You're what they tried to hide, to deny the existence of, what they feared. A wolf born of desire, not violence. You're the future. No, I'm the consequence. He stepped back. Stephen raised his arms. Brothers, bear witness. Behind him, the crowd began to circle. Wolves baring teeth, hands reaching for goblets, flesh twitching with intention. Stephen extended the chalice. Drink, Marcus. Let the last of your shame die. Marcus took the cup, held it, smiled, and dropped it. It shattered into a mess of dark liquid and shiny bits. The doors burst open, and Rook stepped into the scene. His silhouette was carved from shadows, backlit by police strobes, tactical vest clinging to broad shoulders, gun drawn, eyes flashing green. He moved with the grace not normally seen from a man his size. Federal agent, everyone down! Wolves snarled, velvet ripped, Someone screamed. Marcus was having déjà vu. Stephen turned, eyes alight with malice and glee. "Ah ha ha! The White Knight arrives!" Rook ignored him. "Marcus!" "On it!" Marcus spun, low and fast, the shift starting at his fingertips. Stephen lunged. They met mid-air. Claw, fang, fury. Stephen was fast, faster than anyone had a right to be. But Marcus was faster now, stronger. He caught Stephen at the shoulder, twisted, and drove him down through the table with a crash. Stephen howled, eyes wild, blood in his mouth. "You think you're better than me?" "No. I think I'm done with you." He pressed the silver blade hidden in its tie clip to Stephen's throat. "You lose." Rook was beside him, kneeling, silver cuffs in one hand, tranquilizer dart in the other. He jammed the needle into Stephen's neck without hesitation or ceremony. "Night, night, cult daddy." Stephen gasped, spasmed, then went still. SWAT surged in seconds later. NYPD in tactical black, full riot gear, faces unreadable. Marcus didn't move. Rook stood over him, chest heaving, shiny with sweat, his eyes never leaving Marcus's face. "Are you hurt?" "No." "Are you okay?" "Not yet." "Okay. Let's fix that." Later that evening, they sat on the roof of Rook's apartment, cleaned up, wrapped in an oversized blanket, and a peaceful kind of quiet. The cats were safe. The city was as quiet as it could get. And the warehouse was locked and under federal seal. Marcus leaned against Rook's side, eyes half closed. "Do you think it's over?" He tucked himself under Rook's arm. Rook didn't answer right away. A troubled look crossed his face. "I think Stephen's done. But the network? That runs deep." Marcus nodded. "Then we keep digging. Together." A pause. "You're not gonna go lone wolf on me, are you?" "Nah. Being alone sucks. I'm not doing that again." Marcus grinned. "Deal." And as the city kept up its unique pace, seemingly busy 24/7, two lone wolves, having found each other, snuggled together beneath the waning moon. Postscript. Marcus still works at the eyewear studio in NoHo. He's the same as ever, quiet, well-dressed, too polite, until he's not. But the lighting's a little dimmer these days, the customers a little weirder, and the plants, they never die. He posts fewer flat lays now. More moments, a steaming mug next to an accidental claw mark on the table. Rook's hand, half visible in the frame, brushing against his. A cat perched on his chest like she's guarding something ancient. And once, just once, a story with no caption. A full moon behind cracked glass, the glint of a tie clip, and two shadows, not running, not hunting, just frolicking, together.
Marcus, a man who set out looking for the perfect frames and found himself staring down the reflection of his own beast. Who among us, my pretties, haven't flirted with something dangerous behind a cracked restroom mirror, or at least fantasized about it? If tonight's tale has left you feeling a bit unsettled, perhaps check the locks on your fridge and your heart. Hunger comes in many forms after all. Special thanks to Saint for pinning this wickedly sharp tale, and to Geoff Sturtevant for his singular performance. Saint writes about monsters and about love. Sometimes they're the same story. His work explores the afterlife of grief, the architecture of memory, and the quiet hauntings of the places we call home. A lifelong student of folklore, the occult, and the uncanny, he crafts character-driven fiction that lingers where the personal and the unnatural meet. He's currently at work on Inheritance, his debut novel, which we cannot wait to check out. Until next time, I am Lucius Voss, reminding you to keep your chin up, your claws sharp, and beware the quiet ones in the corner. They're the ones who bite hardest. And remember, keep your lights low and stay tuned for next week for the second installment of the Shipping and Handling series. Good night.